Be sure to subscribe to WXOU Sports on YouTube. WXOU Sports is the place to be for all things sports from your favorite college radio station. WXOU Sports features live audio broadcasts of all Oakland University home games, including men's and women's basketball. They also feature interviews with athletes and coaches, with highlights and more. Just go to YouTube and search WXOU Sports and hit subscribe. Now, back to the show. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, your home for all Oakland University Golden Grizzlies sports. My name is Giovanni Mosheri, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the GioMoShow for weekly coverage of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. And don't forget to follow me on social media as well. The GioMoShow has its own Instagram page that you can follow at the GioMoShow. And you can follow me on Twitter as well at GioMosheri, WXOU. And you can use the hashtag, the GioMoShow, to stay involved. So for this one, we got basketball, just men's and women's, as we're into the Horizon League tournament. One season is over, and one season is continuing for Oakland basketball. We'll cover those in a little bit. And I'm recording this one Monday afternoon. Later tonight, the Golden Grizzlies men's team will be facing off in Indianapolis against the Colonials at 7 o'clock. So we'll have this section, we'll have this general recording for the first part of it, and then immediately following the game, we'll have the second part of it, and we'll splice that in so that we could get this thing hot and ready for Tuesday morning's release. So we'll get kind of all the how would I say, the pregame stuff, the warm-up, the build-up. We'll get that this part, and then we'll have our reaction to the game right after the final buzzer. Hopefully it's the Golden Grizzlies continuing their season. As if they win, they'll be playing that very next tomorrow afternoon. For those watching now, it would be tonight. So we'll have a separate video if that were to be the case. So I'll just have a separate recording, a bit of a bonus content for my immediate reaction to the Horizon League tournament game. But let's dress it up now. And we'll talk about men's basketball coming into this one. And we've been off for the past week. I apologize for that. But luckily, it's just two teams that we got to talk about in the past 2 weeks, as Oakland finished out the regular season with a trip to Wisconsin, and then they start the Horizon League tournament against those two very same teams. So we'll start with last week's February 27th game at Milwaukee, where the general takeaway from that one, and I'll be brief with the regular season games, Jalen Jones was really missed because he had to stay home from the Wisconsin trip because of the flu. And we got a very strong reminder that ball handling and point guard play is a bit of a struggle for Oakland, especially with Jalen Jones gone. It was just turnovers everywhere. Milwaukee knew it. They had a great scouting report, and they knew to attack the ball, and they knew that Oakland was not going to be able to handle it well, especially without Jalen Jones. But then Nassim Mashore fouled out after just playing 9 minutes. So then it was literally just DQ and whoever else was touching the ball to be able to try and handle it, and it just did not work well. As Milwaukee would win that one 71-66 over the Golden Grizzlies. And then the final regular season game played at Green Bay on March 1st. That one, an overtime win for Oakland, 87-84. In that game, the big takeaway was, Mukeba being himself, as well as Oakland going 8 for 8 for free throws in overtime. And it also just kind of proved that we'll face Green Bay in the first round. We kind of knew that going into it, that most likely we'd be facing Green Bay in the opening rounds of the tournament at home at the arena. That game proved that, this is, Green Bay's no pushover when it comes to the tournament. Wild things happen, and you got to be careful when you face them. So those were the main takeaways that I got from those last two regular season games. And luckily, I was on the call for the opening round of the Horizon League tournament, and I got a great look and a great feel for their opening game against the 11th seed Green Bay Phoenix. So with all of the previous game's antics, I was giving Green Bay a shot in this game just because the way I kind of see Oakland and, still kind of continue to see is that their ceiling can beat anybody, but their floor can lose to anybody because, is this going to be a game where it's just Mukeba and Baru dominate, or is this going to be a 1 for 21 from 3 kind of game that we saw when they were on the road at Purdue Fort Wayne just earlier this season? So, like, I gave Green Bay a shot if Oakland would have that, a bad shooting night. That didn't happen, though. Oakland had 2 hands on the wheel driving the bus for this game for most of it. And the biggest, and I guess you could also say the earliest indication of that was Isaiah Jones had the hot hand. He was 4 of 4 from 3 to start the game, and he missed his final attempt. He finished 4 of 5 from deep. That doesn't happen a lot for Isaiah Jones. He usually doesn't get that many opportunities to even get 4 3-pointers. And, you've seen in the season that if he's left wide open and he could step into it, he could really shoot the 3 well. And sometimes teams will leave him open on the 3 just because of the scouting report doesn't suggest that he's going to be the one to take a lot of 3s. But throw that out the window. Jones had the hot hand. He would finish the game with 15 points, 4 of 5 from deep, as well as, strangely, only a single rebound, but 4 assists and a steal. And it was just a lot. He had a fantastic game. And in addition to that, Alan Mukeba, he was bullying in the paint. He knew, especially with the Horizon League honors coming out, Mukeba only listed at the second team, which I maybe don't disagree with, but, be on the second team, definitely deserve to be on one of them. I mean, you look at the top part of the league and it's, it's tough. There was a lot of competition and it was a lot the Horizon League is very spread out. There's not so much like one dominant team or one dominant player. Like it was pretty spread out. So it was kind of a toss-up as to whether Mukeba should have been on the first or second team, but he played like first team, and we'll get a little bit more into that when they with the Milwaukee game, as that point is proven even more. But he himself, 5 of 10 from the field, 15 points, was 5 of 6 from the free throw line, 11 rebounds, and 6 blocks. He had 6 of Oakland's 7 blocks in this game, and he was just all over the glass. He was just all over the place, and Green Bay's big guys just could not handle him. In addition to that, DQ Cole, sharpshooter from 3, 3 of 5 from deep in this game with 2 rebounds and 3 assists, good for 11 points. And one big note from this game is that because Oakland had such a big lead with, I think, like 6 minutes left, Campy let the whole bench out. We had Dane Majak, we had Cooper Craig, Xavier Banks. Like, we had a lot, Jack Hoff. We had a lot of our guys from the bench get tournament minutes, which, I mean, the game was out of hand at that point anyway, but when you have that opportunity to get your guys that hopefully are going to be coming back and hopefully are going to be coming back much improved, especially when it comes to Majak and the Hoff twins, guys that you brought in, planning on resting or redshirting or whatever to build them up for the following year, you got them tournament minutes. And Majak made a couple of baskets as well. Majak ended with 7 points. That's his season high. Was 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He only missed 1 shot, 3 rebounds. I mean, like, you saw that. The crowd went crazy. I think Mashore was the only Golden Grizzly that did not score, and they were trying to get him the ball in those final minutes as well. But Jack Hoff, Xavier Banks, Craggs, Majak, all of them scored in the Horizon League tournament. It was cool. It was cool to see. And then with that game, another big storyline was that Jason Woodrich became the all-time leader in Horizon League games played, this being his 5th season. His previous 4 years were with Cleveland State, where they made plenty of runs in the Horizon League tournament to get those extra games towards that record. So after that game, the graphic came out, and all of his players are retweeting it, reposting it, old head, all that kind of stuff. So history was made on the arena floor, on the blacktop, and that gave Oakland their 96-72 win over the Green Bay Phoenix, and that sent them to Milwaukee. The 6th seed versus the Oakland 6th seed versus Milwaukee being the 3rd seed. In that previous game, like we mentioned, Milwaukee got the best of Oakland, 71-66, turnovers galore, but this time Jalen Jones was back, and he made himself known and present in that game. He was a big, big deal for the Golden Grizzlies as they faced off against Milwaukee. And can't be regarded Milwaukee as one of the most, if not the, I think he said the most talented team in the Horizon League. They had a ton of players, a ton of talent. Newcomer of the year, JaMychal Stillwell, leading rebounder. They was a very, very talented team. Predicted number one in the league going into it to finish this third. And, that's not, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility for them to be number one. Although Cleveland State and then later on Robert Morris were the ones holding on to those spots. But either way, Milwaukee is a tough, tough team. And this game, you don't usually see it in the Horizon League, but I was scrolling through Twitter and I found some buzz about this game. And, Barstool Milwaukee and some of their fans were starting to get at Oakland. They wanted revenge for last year's championship tournament or last year's championship game. They wanted revenge for it. And, they were chirping a little bit, which is, you don't see it often, but I had a feeling okay, so this game's a little bit more special. It was cool. And this one, when you look at the statistics and you look at the numbers of it, it was pretty much really evenly matched. You had both teams have the exact same field goal percentage. They were both 28 of 54, and they both took 18 three-pointers, Oakland making 7, Milwaukee only making 5. But the biggest difference when it comes to the numbers in this game was the free throws. Remember, this is the league quarterfinals. Oakland is on the road against Milwaukee, one of the most talented teams in the league. And Oakland goes 9 of 9 from the free throw line. Milwaukee, on the other hand, the pressure's on them. They want the revenge. They want to win at home in front of their fans in the tournament, get to Indy and try it, avenge their runner-up status. They went 3 of 12 from the free throw line. They could not get it into the bucket. Despite having more attempts, Oakland made every single one of them count. And that was really shocking to see. What was also really shocking to see is that Oakland against Milwaukee, who was the number one rebounding team in the league with the number one rebounder, Oakland dominated the glass. 31-22 was the rebounding margin. Oakland had 9 rebounds on Milwaukee. And that made a difference as well. You look at the numbers, it's a couple of three-pointers that Oakland made, and it was the free throws that made the biggest difference. But this game was just phenomenal on Oakland's side, especially for Mukeba and Baru. Those guys doing their thing. 21 points for Allen. Never missed a shot. 9 of 9 from the field. 3 of 3 from the line. 7 rebounds and assist as well for the cleanest 21 points in his 35 minutes played as a starter. And I forgot to mention for the Green Bay game, no one played more than 26 minutes. So not a whole lot of wear and tear coming into this game, despite the extra trip to Milwaukee. Everyone was pretty fresh coming into this one. So 35 minutes and 21 points for Mukeba. Baru, 20 points. He was 7 of 14 from the field, which doesn't look as good when you're comparing 100% to 50%, but still 50% from the floor. 7 of 14 was 6 of 6 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 2 assists for 20 points for Baru. And then Jalen Jones, who I mentioned before, made his presence known, made a big difference in this game, the third game for Oakland against Milwaukee. 10 points, but that came with crucial 2 3-pointers made. That made a huge difference later in the game. 2 of 3 from deep, along with 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. Jalen Jones was everywhere in this game in his 33 minutes played, which may or may not, I haven't checked, but that's probably his highest minutes played, 33, and especially as coming off the bench. So he gets 10 points for the Golden Grizzlies, and DQ continuing his great 3-point shooting, 3 of 6 from deep, along with 2 rebounds and 2 assists for 9 points in his 27 minutes played. And Isaiah Jones, I just want to point him out because his stat line is just always all over the place. 4 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and a steal. It's just he does everything. He does everything for this Oakland team. And now I want to bring it to kind of the general, the final team stats. In these past 2 games for Oakland, against Green Bay, there were 49% from the field, and against Milwaukee, there were 52. Against Green Bay, there were 44% from three. Against Milwaukee, there were 39. And what would the combination be? They were 89% from the free throw line against Green Bay, and they were 100% against Milwaukee. So Oakland, in terms of the offense and in terms of how they're playing, they are at their I don't want to say their ceiling, like they can't get better, but I mean, like they're playing their best basketball now. That is dangerous. You get momentum. You play fantastic games coming into the Horizon League semifinals where you're faced up against the number 1 seed, Robert Morris Colonials, and it is game on. And Oakland's playing really hot, and I wanted to kind of give the preview for tonight's game against Robert Morris, and I'll splice in the reaction for it shortly after it. But I want to paint the picture for you guys for this semifinal game, the 1 seed Colonials and the 6 seed Golden Grizzlies. Oakland, the only team in the quarterfinals to beat the home team. Oakland only one to win on the road to get to Indy. Everyone else was chalk and was able to get there on their home court. So this season, Oakland is 0-2 against the Robert Morris Colonials. First game played shortly after New Year's, January 4th, Saturday, where they lost 79-71 in a game where in the press conference, Baru said, quote, "We just sucked." They were not happy with their performance, and they wanted to make sure that their following game against the Colonials was one that was much, much better. And that game would be January 25th, towards the end of January, at Robert Morris. And this one was nuts. This game was tight. It was a 73-71 loss for Oakland. It was just 2 points, but the game was wild. The referees were the biggest story, not only just as a fan complaining, but it was so bad. It was, everyone was so hot that after the game, it was a crucial mistake by the referees, a mistake that the league acknowledged and kicked the ref out of the league. They said he will not be officiating Horizon League games anymore. But the biggest one was that Campy at the end of the game charged towards the referee to yell at him. I don't want to say like he was going to fight him, but right after the final buzzer, when Robert Morris was able to make, I think it was a foul on Cam Woods, taking a three, and I think he made 2 of his 3 to give Robert Morris the lead that would end up winning the game. And Campy lost his cool, screamed at this ref, and got himself suspended for the following game. Luckily, it was against Green Bay, and Oakland took care of that nicely, but there's a lot coming into this game. At that point, at January 25th, Oakland and Robert Morris were on 4-game win streaks. Someone had to lose, and someone had to kind of restart that momentum, but Robert Morris just rocket shipped themselves from that spot. I think they were the 5th seed at the time. Oakland was the 6th seed. They rocket shipped themselves up to a regular season championship. And, we didn't really know that at the time, but we kind of ran into Robert Morris on their way up. And now that they're at the number 1 seed, Oakland has a chance to knock them off. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in a season. Oakland did it against Green Bay, but it's against Green Bay. This is the number 1 seed, with the pressure on them to continue and get to the championship game. A little bit of a scouting report here. You got the player of the year, Alvaro Folgueras. Similar to Trey Townsend's player of the year last year, where it wasn't so much that he was dominant in scoring or dominant in one single thing. He did everything for his Robert Morris team. He didn't even lead them in scoring. He didn't even lead his own team in scoring, but he was just everywhere doing everything. Folgueras, 14.2 points per game. That is 12th in the Horizon League. 55.9% from the field. That is 2nd in the Horizon League, behind Mukeba at 1st and Baru right behind him at 3rd. So you got 3 of the top field goal percentagers in the league facing off in the semifinals with Mukeba, Folgueras, and Baru. 9.3 rebounds per game for Folgueras. That is 2nd in the Horizon League, just behind JaMychal Stillwell, who we mentioned of Milwaukee. We mentioned Oakland just defeated. So 9.3 rebounds per game, and then 3 assists per game as well, which is tied for 13th in the league for a power forward. That's not very common, but very similar to what Trey Townsend did last year for Oakland. Kind of now Townsend led Oakland in scoring. I think he had about 17 points per game, but otherwise, high field goal percentage, high rebounds, assists as well. The dude is just everywhere. And I'm looking more into the stats. You got 1.1 blocks per game. That's 8th in the league. And he doesn't even play 30 minutes a game. He plays 29.1 minutes per game and is still able to do all of that. I forgot to mention this as well. He's 41% from the three. He's made 39 three-pointers out of 95 attempts. So, maybe the volume is not there. He wouldn't be listed for the Horizon League, statistics rankings. But he's 41% from three. All of that mixed together, like this dude was nice. So Fulgaris is going to be huge for Robert Morris and huge for Oakland to take care of. Cam Woods, in addition, their guard, a transfer from NC State, who's one of the top assisters and one of the top scorers in the league. I don't have the specific numbers for him like I do for Fulgaris, but he's one of the best guards in the league. And then you got Amarion Dickerson, who is the Defensive Player of the Year in the Horizon League. Doesn't have as much, Defensive Player of the Years don't have as much numbers behind them, but 2.4 blocks per game. That is second in the league, only behind Gabe Dines, who's literally 7 foot. And, second in blocks per game. He's like top 15 in rebounding, top maybe 15 in scoring. Offensive rebounds, he's up there as well. So that dude is going to give, as well, him and Fulgaris in combination, they're going to give Baru and Allen a great fight in this game coming up. So one last look. We'll zoom out for the Horizon League tournament before we watch the semifinals tonight on ESPNU and ESPN2. Our matchup is going to be 7 o'clock on ESPNU, which by the time you watch this, you have already seen it. But zooming in to it, not only is this a semifinal game, but Cleveland State and Youngstown State, the Cleveland State 2 seed, Youngstown State the 4th seed, they'll be facing off after our matchup as well. Cleveland State as a 2nd seed, they defeated Northern Kentucky last week to get to the spot that they're at. In Youngstown State, they defeated the 5th seed Purdue Fort Wayne to get them to the semifinals round. So let's look ahead a little bit for the sake of conversation. Neither of these teams are going to be easy. These are two, obviously, but there's not like a clear matchup that Oakland necessarily likes. Now, we play Cleveland State very well on senior night in the arena, a couple of weeks ago towards the end of the regular season. Youngstown State wasn't the easiest for Oakland either. I think we got swept by Youngstown State this season, and we split Cleveland State. I just want to, get the gears moving on that sense if the case is that Oakland does move on. So this is going to be a fantastic matchup, and coming up right now, we'll get my immediate reactions to the result of the game, and then afterwards, we'll get into women's basketball. I am sorry to say that I do not have good news to report for the semifinals matchup between the Golden Grizzlies and the Colonials, the 1 versus 6 matchup in the Horizon League semifinals. In overtime, Oakland defeated by the Colonials 79-76. So many chances to tie or take the lead in overtime, just could not make a shot. They just wouldn't happen. We could have. We had the chance to. And they were pretty much the only shots that we took, but we finished overtime 0 of 6 from 3. Many of those opportunities are when you are down by 3. When it was that 76-79 score, and it could have tied and potentially extended the life of the Golden Grizzlies season. But it was not to be had. So I'll go over this game in a little bit more of a general detail. So this one was just such an evenly matched battle for at least the first half of it, where you had swings back and forth, but nothing swung too far into one direction. I was really paying attention to, as well as everybody else, the matchup between 2 of Oakland's bigs and 2 of Robert Morris's bigs. Allen and Mukeba versus Dickerson, and Fulgaris. That was the spotlight that was put on for the whole game. And of course, there wasn't just them doing all the scoring and such, but that was one that was drawing my eyes. And that first half was just such an arm wrestling match between the two. Not so much in terms of like physical, the physicality of it, but it's just neither was budging one way or the other. Mukeba started to get a little more momentum in his matchup against Fulgaris towards halftime in the first half, extending into the second half as well. But that one was just, it was a tough matchup. This, like I said in the pregame, like Robert Morris is one of the few teams in the league that really matches up well against our two bigs. But what Oakland was able to do was make their shots from deep in regulation. Oakland was 3 of 5 in the first half and 5 of 12 in the second half from deep. You got them from everywhere. You got them from DQ. You got them from Woodrich, who made a crucial three late in the game. And unfortunately, that was the only one that he made, but you look down, Christie made his threes as well. So the guys who were supposed to make their threes made their threes. Isaiah Jones made the only one that he took. But I want to take you guys into the last moments of it as my chicken scratch notes that I was taking just to try to keep my thoughts together, anticipation for this recording. But Oakland has the lead with less than 2 minutes to go, 69-68, with DQ getting a clutch three-pointer at the end of the shot clock. That catapulted Oakland into the lead. Robert Morris then follows up with a foul. Fulgaris is trying to pass across court. It ends up tipping the rim and flies out of bounds. And then Oakland takes that and gives it to Woody. That's where he makes the three in transition. That would give Oakland a 72-68 lead with a minute 26 left. It's a 4-point lead with less than a minute and a half to go. And over that time, so Robert Morris in the second half, Oakland was leading by, I think, 11 towards the middle of the second half. Oakland came out on fire in that second half. It's the best first 5 minutes out of a half that I have seen out of Oakland this season, especially going into the second half. That was a lot of times where Oakland comes out flat, but this one, they were on fire. They got the game into double digits their way, but Robert Morris, they are the 1 seed. They're a great team, 25 wins. They were not going to give up, and they made a run of themselves to get the game within the 1-point possession, to make it the dogfight that this game was destined to be all along. But either way, after Oakland makes their approach, after it makes their run at the beginning of the second half, Robert Morris swings it back their way, and then Oakland in the final couple minutes of regulation does it their way. One big key for this one as well is in the final few minutes. I forget at what time, but Fulgaris fouls out. Fulgaris fouls out of the game with a couple of minutes left, and Mukeba was close by with 4. Mukeba would then also foul out with just a few moments left in the game. So that set up overtime to where neither team had their star big. Neither one had their All-Horizon League player. Now, it was in terms of the All-Horizon League, Marion Dickerson was still on the court for Robert Morris, but it was strange to see both teams depleted of their best player and have to duke it out mano-a-mano in that sense. But either way, so you go into overtime with no Mukeba and no Fulgaris, and it's just mistakes and missed shots, and it's just all of the what seemed like good, I don't want to say good fortune, but all the playmaking and all the offense and all the shots made just seemed to pewter out in overtime. And great plays were made by Robert Morris that got them the win. They're going to the championship game, and tipping off right now is Cleveland State and Youngstown State. We'll see who faces off in that championship game. But this game, I'll land the plane with this. This game was everything you want in March. This game is everything you want in a do or die conference championship semifinals. This is the game you want. These were teams that had a little bit of bad blood from earlier in the season, and Maybe that bad blood's going to continue into next season just because of how close their last 2 games have been and, questionable involvement of the refs, at least as of Neil Rule's broadcast. I'm not well-versed enough in basketball to make my own sense of it, but this game was just everything you want. And I lied. I want to make one other final note. The plays coming out of timeouts, the play coming out of the last few seconds of regulation, as well as one drawn up for the last couple of seconds in overtime. Those did not work at all. The play coming out of, we have 3.4 seconds left, and Campy draws up a dunk for Baru. And we've seen this play a couple of times throughout the season. Those plays were not run against Robert Morris. The times that we got those were either ending the first half or coming out of the second half. That the play to swing Baru around the baseline to alley-oop for a dunk, that is not a last second play. I did not like the call there where you get Baru again. I'll stop myself from hesitating to it. I don't know a ton about basketball, but this is what I saw. Is that you try to oop it to Baru, who's been kind of struggling against Dickerson throughout the game. And, we're missing Mukeba. And you try to lob it to him over the defensive player of the year, Amarion Dickerson. That's the play you try to get the lead in the last few seconds. Of course it would have been awesome if we made it and won the game in the last second with a Baru dunk. Baru got a dunk in the game before, but it's just, I did not like that draw up after, for the play of the season. But luckily that wasn't yet the play of the season. But just whatever was drawn up in overtime just collapsed and did not work. And Robert Morris knew that we wanted the 3, and they knew the guys that were going to shoot the 3 because we don't really have like guys that kind of blend the skill. You get the shooters, and then you got you guys who don't. So they were just following them, and there was no space, and there was no room, and we couldn't get a clean shot off. The ball ends up in Baru's hands in the final seconds of overtime, and it's kind of close, but like it just didn't work, and it gave me a bad taste in my mouth, reminding me of the NC State game where the plays that were drawn up coming out of for inbounds and coming out of timeouts, it's just left a bad taste in my mouth, reminiscent of last year's round of 32 ending against NC State. So that was a bummer, but all things considered, this game was a ton of fun. It's just a shame that we don't get to do it again tomorrow night. So Oakland University ends 11-9 in conference play and 16 and something on the season. Thank everybody for listening to the GioMoShow. Now we'll get to women's basketball, where unfortunately not the best news, but not all bad news. And we'll get to that part of the GioMoShow now. Welcome back here to the GioMoShow. We'll wrap things up with women's basketball, as their season has unfortunately wrapped up for them. However, with some bright spots, a win in the Horizon League tournament for the Oakland Golden Grizzlies women's team. The first time in 3 years they moved on into the tournament. They upset the 7th seed IU Indy Jaguars 62-56 with a whole lot of Maddie Skorupski. 25 points for Skorupski, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Skorupski doing it all. No other Golden Grizzlies scored into double digits, although the scoring was pretty spread out amongst, I believe, the 7 others who have scored in that game. But unfortunately, the reward for defeating the Jaguars was to face the regular season champion Green Bay Phoenix, who somehow got the number 1 spot despite Purdue Fort Wayne had a 17-game win streak during the season. Much of it was in conference play, but Green Bay just held on. 19-1 record for the regular season, and they became the regular season champs and decapitated Oakland. So it was an 84-55 loss to end Oakland's season. The 1 seed versus the 10 seed, that's going to happen. So Oakland finishes up their season 10th in the Horizon League, 6-14 in conference play, 9-22 overall. And I just can't get out of my mind the 4-0 start that Oakland had in conference play. 4-0 to end, to start 4-0 and then to end literally 2-14. Yikes. So there is it. So this now brings us to the offseason when it comes to women's basketball. A national coaching search will be conducted to fill the shoes of Jeff Tungett, who had to retire for medical reasons after, shortly after the beginning of conference play. This is an opportunity for Oakland to really try and revive their women's basketball program, who have, and I'm not going to speak for the entire history of it, at least for, in recent years, they were, one of the best teams back in the D2 days, or I believe there was a Final Four run somewhere in those D2 days. So, with this new coaching hire, this is an opportunity for Oakland women's basketball to start to get onto the stage and start to bring people into the arena. When you got dynasties, or a little bit more of a dynastic nature when it comes to the women's basketball, Cleveland State, Green Bay, Fort Wayne, some of the best teams in the league, and they don't let go of that very often. This is going to have to be a significant hire for women's basketball to be able to get themselves into that category. Maybe, to launch yourself into a position to be the 4th seed when you have those 3 monsters towards the top of the league. But the way the program has been going for women's basketball, it is time for a change. And it's nothing to say against the current staff there. They're fantastic people. I've worked with them when I was back with the WXOU. But it's, you look at the history of it, you look at the records, and you look at, the performances in the Horizon League tournament. It's time for a change. And it's something that I hope Oakland is going to make the right choice on with whoever they hire. I got no idea who's out there. I got no idea about hiring coaches, but this is an opportunity for Oakland to really improve this program. And hopefully, for my sake, just give the students on campus a reason to show up, crowds to fill up the arena, a little bit more similar to what the men's basketball team does, even though that has some higher aspirations for attendance is what at least I'll say. But I just hope they make the right hire, and I hope the program is back to former glory, at least when reference to the Division II days. So that will wrap up the Oakland women's basketball segment and season for us on the GioMoShow. Once again, they finished 10th seed, upsetting the 7th seed Jaguars, and then were buzzsawed by the number 1 seed Phoenix. And it's time for brighter days ahead. So that will wrap us up for us on the GioMoShow. And, because I'm in the past recording this, I hope that my reaction to Oakland men's basketball is a little bit happier than my conclusion here for the women's basketball season. Fortunately, we didn't have time to get to the shout outs of the other teams going on. Baseball and softball are doing their kind of out of conference, warm weather types of games. And, those are ones where iron sharpens iron. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get the right edge for our teams in the out of conference play. But either way, we'll see how Oakland does against Robert Morris. And with luck on our side, you'll be hearing from me again tomorrow in immediate reaction to that game, as well as a preview for the next. So be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the GioMoShow for coverage of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Find me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And next week we'll go over the Horizon League tournament as a whole and more Golden Grizzlies coverage as always. My name is Giovanni Mosheri, and we'll see you soon.